Welcome to Glisso English. Real life stories.
Imagine your boss walks up to your desk, hands you a list of fake names, and tells you your job depends on writing 100 glowing 5-star reviews for a product you know is complete garbage. Do you hit submit to keep your paycheck, or do you blow the whistle and risk everything? Today, we're breaking down a story of corporate greed, digital fraud, and the exact moment a line gets crossed. Let's get into it.
The email's subject line was deceptively calm, quick sync re Q3 trajectory. Marcus sat in Arthur's corner office, watching the afternoon sun cut through the blinds and land directly across a box of unsold product prototypes. The company's flagship wrist support was supposed to revolutionize ergonomic design. Instead, it smelled faintly of heated plastic and melted after 20 minutes of continuous use. "We're hemorrhaging money, Marcus," Arthur said, leaning back in his leather chair. He didn't look angry, he looked pragmatic, which was somehow worse. "The algorithm is burying us. Retailers won't touch the inventory with a 2.1-star average. The company needs momentum before Friday's investor call." Marcus shifted in his chair. "Engineering is still working on the thermal casing. If we give them 2 weeks, engineering doesn't fix this quarter's balance sheet," Arthur interrupted. He pushed a printed spreadsheet across the polished mahogany desk. It contained a list of 30 newly created email addresses, complete with assigned names, locations, and pre-written talking points emphasizing unmatched durability and life-saving comfort. "I need 50 verified 5-star reviews posted by midnight tomorrow," Arthur said, his voice as flat as a directive. "Spread them across the major platforms and our direct site. Use VPNs." Marcus stared at the sheet. "Arthur, that's outright fraud. If the platforms flag the IP clusters, or if the company loses Friday's funding round, there are no customers. And more importantly, there is no marketing department, which means no you." The quiet menace hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Arthur offered a tight transactional smile and gestured toward the door. "Make them sound authentic, Marcus. You've always been good with words."
Back at his desk, Marcus stared at the monitor until the white glow of the empty text box burned into his retinas. Write a review. The prototype sat next to his keyboard like a ticking bomb. 2 hours ago, he'd plugged one into his own laptop just to test Arthur's claims of minor thermal variance. Within 15 minutes, the faint stench of scorching polymer filled his cubicle, and the bottom plate became hot enough to leave a red rectangular mark on his palm. His fingers hovered over the keys. Name, David Miller. Location, Austin, Texas. Rating, 5 stars. "Changed my life," Marcus typed, his stomach turning with every keystroke. "As a graphic designer who works 14-hour days, this wrist support completely eliminated my fatigue. Couldn't live without it." He paused, staring at the lie. It was easy to generate, too easy. He toggled the VPN to a Texas node, hit submit, and watched the page refresh. "Your review has been published." 1 down, 49 to go. Around him, the open plan office hummed with oblivious energy. Keyboards clattered, laughter drifted from the break room, and someone was heating up leftover Thai food. Nobody else knew that the company's life support was currently being forged in Marcus's browser tabs. By 8 p.m., the office had cleared out. The overhead fluorescents shut off automatically, leaving Marcus bathed in the cool light of 2 monitors. His wrist actually ached, not from ergonomic strain, but from the repetitive motion of switching IP addresses, creating throwaway accounts, and inventing fictitious people who were supposedly head over heels in love with a fire hazard. He opened the spreadsheet to log his 18th review when his phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text from his girlfriend, Maya. "Dinner's cold, but saved you a plate. How's the crunch time going?" Marcus closed his eyes, leaning back into his chair. He picked up his phone, deleted 3 different draft replies, and typed back, "Nearly done, just polishing up some copy." The morning sun brought no relief, only the harsh reality of the daytime shift. Marcus walked into the office carrying a large coffee, his eyes bloodshot from staring at VPN configurations until 2 a.m. He had managed to submit 24 fake reviews before his conscience and his exhaustion forced him to stop. As he walked past the break room, he overheard hushed voices. Sarah from accounting and Chloe from customer support were standing near the coffee maker. "Did you see the rating spike overnight?" Sarah asked, taking a sip from her mug. "It shot up to 3.8 stars. Arthur's going around telling everyone the new ad campaign is working." Chloe shook her head, her face etched with worry. "That's impossible. Half my inbox is still angry customers demanding refunds for melted casing. If sales pick back up because of those ratings, support is going to be completely overwhelmed." Marcus quickly walked past, keeping his head down. The guilt hit him like a physical blow. He wasn't just lying to nameless internet users, he was throwing his own colleagues under the bus to cover Arthur's corporate mess. Back at his desk, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Arthur on the internal chat. "Good start on the numbers. Finish the rest by 3 p.m. Board prep at 4. Marcus looked over at the empty cubicle across from him. Elena, the senior copywriter who had been with the company since its startup days, was typing furiously. Unlike Marcus, she looked calm, almost detached. Unable to hold it in, Marcus leaned over. "Elena, did Arthur ask you to do any special project work for the product page?" Elena didn't stop typing, but her jaw tightened slightly. "Don't ask questions you already know the answer to, Marcus." "How can you be so casual about it?" he whispered, leaning closer. "It's fraud." Elena finally paused, turning her chair to face him. Her expression wasn't angry, it was exhausted. "I have 2 kids and a mortgage. Last year, when the company hit a rough patch, they laid off 6 people in a single afternoon. You think Arthur cares about integrity? He cares about survival. And right now, so do I. Write the reviews, or someone else will be sitting in your chair tomorrow writing them for you." She turned back to her screen, leaving Marcus completely alone in the crowded room.
By 1 p.m., Marcus had built a methodical, soul-crushing routine. He opened a private browser window, generated a fake identity using a random name generator, and assigned them a believable backstory. Sarah Jenkins, mid-level manager from Seattle. Greg Miller, freelance photographer from Chicago. He assigned each a distinct writing style. Some reviews were short and enthusiastic, others long-winded, with intentional typos to bypass automated spam filters. Then came the digital logistics. Marcus opened his VPN software, cycling through server locations across the country: San Jose, Dallas, Atlanta. Every few minutes, he cleared his browser cookies, flushed his DNS cache, and logged into a fresh throwaway email address created through temporary inbox services. The mechanics were eerily simple, which made the scale of the lie even more unsettling. On the main platform's back end, the product's rating curve was shifting in real time. The ugly 2.1-star average was slowly smoothing out, nudged upward by a steady stream of falsified 5-star praise. As he pasted in review number 37, a gushing paragraph about how the device saved a fictitious accountant's career, his screen flickered. A bright yellow banner popped up on the review platform's submission portal. "Security alert! High volume of submission activity detected from flagged IP range. Verification required." Marcus froze, his heart pounding against his ribs. The platform's fraud detection system had picked up the pattern. If the algorithm flagged these accounts, the platform would issue a fraud warning on the product's public page, blowing the whole thing wide open, and Arthur would know exactly whose shift it happened on. Sweat slicked Marcus's palms. He hastily disconnected the VPN, purged his session history, and closed the browser tabs just as heavy footsteps echoed behind his desk. "How are we looking, Marcus?" Arthur was standing over his shoulder,
a crisp white mug in hand, smelling faintly of expensive cologne. He leaned in, his eyes darting to Marcus's screen, which currently displayed only an empty, pristine desktop. "I'm just running into some platform rate limits. Their automated fraud filters are tighter than we thought." Arthur's smile disappeared, replaced by a cold, calculating stare. He bent down, lowering his voice so only Marcus could hear. "Figure it out. Use mobile hotspots, use residential proxies. I don't care how you route it, Marcus, but if that average isn't at 4.2 by the time I walk into the board meeting, you won't have to worry about fraud filters anymore." Marcus retreated to a quiet table in the break room, hiding behind his laptop screen as he routed the final batch of reviews through his phone's mobile hotspot. By 3:15 p.m., the dashboard finally flashed the targeted average rating, 4.3 stars. He closed his eyes, feeling less like he had accomplished a task and more like he had survived an interrogation. He logged out of his fake accounts and opened the company's internal support portal to clear his workspace notifications. That was when he saw it. A fresh ticket had landed in the high-priority queue just 4 minutes ago. It was submitted by a user named David K., attached to an invoice for a single retail purchase made 2 days prior. Marcus clicked on the ticket. Attached was a photo. A man's forearm lay resting on a desk. The skin along his wrist flared in a bright, blistering red grid. The plastic casing of the prototype sat beside his hand, its underside warped and black around the central seam. Below the photo was a short message. "I bought this after seeing all the recent 5-star reviews calling it completely safe for all-day use. I wore it during an 8-hour coding shift. It got so hot it fused to my wrist rest and burned straight through my skin. I'm typing this from urgent care. Who do I talk to about medical expenses?" Marcus stared at the screen, the room spinning around him. The fake review he had written yesterday, David Miller, Austin, Texas, specifically used the phrase, completely safe for all-day use. It wasn't a generic lie anymore. It was a direct line of causality. Someone had trusted the manufactured praise, strapped a defective fire hazard to their body, and ended up in a hospital. His hands trembled as he opened the employee directory and typed in Chloe's name from customer support. He hovered over the message box, wanting to explain, wanting to warn her, but stopped. If he flagged the ticket himself, Arthur would know. If he stayed silent, David K. was just the first victim of a product the company was about to dump into thousands of homes.
By 9 a.m. the next morning, the office was quiet, but the air felt charged, like the moments before a thunderstorm. Marcus hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the blistering red grid on David K.'s forearm. He sat at his desk, staring at the support portal. The ticket had been reassigned to legal hold, a tag that meant management had swept it into a dark corner where regular staff couldn't touch it. Then the first crack appeared. At 10:30 a.m., an email blast hit every employee's inbox from the engineering department. Attached was an urgent service bulletin signed by the lead hardware developer. Internal only. Unscheduled thermal analysis. Recent lab tests indicate batch number 884 casing exhibits thermal runaway under sustained load greater than 30 minutes. Risk of enclosure deformation and mild to severe skin irritation. Recommend immediate distribution freeze pending redesign. Panic rippled through the floor. Heads popped up over cubicle walls. "Distribution freeze," someone from sales muttered loudly. "We just pushed 500 units to regional fulfillment yesterday." Before anyone could digest the engineering report, Marcus's phone buzzed with an external Google alert he had set up weeks ago for the company's brand name. He clicked the notification. It was a link to TechGrit, a popular consumer watchdog blog known for ripping shady tech products to shreds. The headline was blunt: "Miracle Turnaround or Manufactured Hype. How an Embattled Tech Startup Gained 200 5-star Reviews in 48 Hours." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face as he scrolled through the article. The writer had run a statistical analysis on the product's review curve, highlighting identical sentence structures, suspicious IP clusters, and a sudden 300% spike in positive feedback right after a wave of defect complaints. "This isn't organic praise," the article concluded. "This looks like a desperate, coordinated astroturfing campaign to mask a dangerous hardware failure." Across the room, Arthur's office door slammed open. Arthur stepped out into the hallway, holding a printout of the TechGrit article. His face was pale, his eyes wide and furious. "Marcus, Elena, in my office, now."
Arthur's office felt smaller now, the air stifling. He shut the door behind Marcus and Elena, pulling the blind shut with a sharp, violent snap. "Somebody talked," Arthur said, tossing the printed article onto his desk. The headline burned through the paper in heavy black ink. "Or somebody got sloppy." His eyes locked directly onto Marcus. "I handled the distribution routing exactly as we discussed. The platform's algorithms flagged the activity pattern. And engineering just issued a freeze. The hardware is actively burning people, Arthur. Engineering doesn't run this company." Arthur slammed his palm on the mahogany desk, making the prototype sitting there rattle. "The investor call is in 3 hours. If TechGrit picks up traction, the valuation drops to 0, the deal dies, and every single person on this floor gets handed a pink slip." Elena stood silently, her arms crossed tight against her chest, staring fixedly at the floor. Arthur stepped closer to Marcus, leaning in until Marcus could smell the stale coffee on his breath. "Here is what we are going to do. You are going to write a public response on that thread. You will claim TechGrit's data was caused by a malicious bot attack from a rival brand trying to smear our launch." Marcus stared at him in disbelief. "You want me to frame a competitor?" "I want you to save your career," Arthur countered, his voice dropping into a harsh, transactional whisper. "And while you're at it, you're going to log on to their store page and drop a few flags on their top-rated reviews. Balance the playing field." "No," Marcus said. The word came out before he could filter it, firm and sharp. "The device is defective. A customer was sent to urgent care yesterday. Pushing more lies isn't fixing a glitch, it's putting people in danger." Arthur's face hardened into stone. He turned slowly toward Elena. "Elena," Arthur said quietly, "if Marcus is too squeamish to protect his team, I assume you're ready to take over the PR response? Unless, of course, you'd prefer to join him in the HR exit interview." Elena swallowed hard, her eyes flickering to Marcus with a look of quiet apology before she looked back at Arthur. "Give me the login," she said softly.
Marcus stepped out of Arthur's office, the heavy door clicking shut behind him. The hum of the open plan floor felt muted, like he was hearing it through thick glass. Elena was already at her desk, her face pale, fingers flying across her keyboard as she logged into the company's corporate portal to draft the fake smear response. Marcus knew he had a choice. He could clear his desk, pack his bag, and walk out. Or he could make sure Arthur didn't get away with it. He sat down at his computer, opened an encrypted flash drive, and plugged it into his tower. It was time to build a paper trail. First, he opened his internal messaging logs. He exported every direct message from Arthur, the midnight demands, the instructions to use VPNs, the explicit order to manipulate the rating average to 4.2 stars before the board meeting. Next, he accessed the server logs, Marcus took high-resolution screenshots of the 37 fake accounts he had created, complete with the throwaway email addresses, the proxy IP addresses, and the exact timestamps of their submission. Side by side, he added a copy of the printed spreadsheet Arthur had handed him in Chapter 1. Finally, he opened the internal support portal. Navigating past the main dashboard, he pulled up ticket number 4092, David K's report. He downloaded the high-res photo of the severe thermal burn, the medical receipt from urgent care, and the internal audit log showing the exact minute Arthur's team had marked the ticket legal hold to hide it from staff. He bundled everything, the messages, the server logs, the photos, and the internal engineering report detailing the thermal runaway flaw, into a single, password-protected zip archive. As the progress bar reached 100%, a shadow fell over his desk. It was Arthur, holding a leather portfolio, on his way to the main conference room for the 2 p.m. investor call. He stopped and looked down at Marcus, his expression cold and detached. HR has been notified. Your access tokens will be revoked at 5 p.m. Clean out your desk. Marcus looked up, met Arthur's eyes, and slowly unplugged the encrypted flash drive from his computer. Understood, Marcus said quietly, slipping the drive into his pocket.
At 2 p.m., the glass-walled main conference room lit up with the glowing logo of the venture capital firm. Inside, Arthur stood at the head of the long table, buttoning his suit jacket as the video link connected. Through the glass, Marcus could see the faces of 4 investors appearing on the giant wall monitor. Marcus picked up his laptop and walked straight toward the room. "Marcus, what are you doing?" Elena whispered urgently from her desk as he passed. "HR is on their way up." He didn't answer. He pushed open the heavy glass door just as Arthur was wrapping up his opening pleasantries. "And despite recent market volatility, our consumer satisfaction metrics have never been stronger," Arthur was saying, pointing to a slide displaying a glowing 4.3-star rating graphic. "We've seen an unprecedented groundswell of support over the last 48 hours. "That's a lie," Marcus said, his voice ringing crisp and clear across the room. "Arthur, shut that off," one of the board members in the room shouted, scrambling out of his chair. "This product is dangerous," Marcus said calmly, looking directly into the web camera. "The recent wave of 5-star reviews was manufactured under threat of termination. I know because I wrote 37 of them using VPNs and throwaway accounts. The product melts under normal use, and the company is actively covering up injury reports to secure this funding round." Arthur lunged for the HDMI cable, tearing it from the port, but it was already too late. On the main monitor, the lead investor had his hands steepled over his face, his expression hardened into ice. "The call is over," the lead investor said coldly. "Arthur, our legal team will be in touch by the end of the hour." The screen went black. The conference room fell into a dead, suffocating silence. Arthur turned to Marcus, his face flushed red, chest heaving with silent rage. Outside the glass, the entire office was standing up, watching. Marcus closed his laptop, picked it up, and walked out the door. The fallout was swift and absolute. By sunset, the funding deal was officially dead. Within 48 hours, news of the falsified reviews and the thermal defect broke nationwide. The company issued a voluntary product recall, followed closely by a flood of refund requests and a class action lawsuit. Arthur was terminated by the board before the week was out, his corporate ladder collapsing under the weight of his own manufactured hype. Marcus sat on his balcony, the cool evening air washing over him as he sipped a cup of tea. His phone lay on the table, quiet for the first time in days. He had turned over his paper trail, the VPN logs, the internal chat transcripts, and the ticket records to consumer safety regulators and the review platform's fraud division.
He knew there might still be professional consequences for his role in writing those initial 37 lies, but the crushing weight in his chest was gone. A quiet knock came at his front door. It was Elena. She walked in carrying a cardboard box filled with her desk items. She gave him a weak, tired smile and set a copy of a major tech publication on his counter. "They cited your documentation in the regulatory filing," she said, leaning against the counter. "The platform is rolling out stricter verification protocols because of what happened." Marcus looked down at the article, then at Elena. "How are you holding up?" She said, "HR cleared out the marketing department this morning," though there was a strange sense of relief in her voice. "It's going to be a tough few months looking for work, but I slept 6 hours last night for the first time in a year." She paused, looking at him with genuine respect. "You took a massive risk, Marcus." "I just couldn't keep typing the lies," Marcus said softly. After Elena left, Marcus opened his laptop one last time. He navigated to a public consumer advocacy forum where David K. had posted an update about his recovery. He didn't use a VPN, a burner email, or a fake identity. He typed a short, direct message offering a sincere apology and sharing the news of the official safety recall. He didn't ask for forgiveness, nor did he expect it. But as he clicked send, he knew that for the first time in a long time, every single word he wrote was true.
And that's the story of the false review. It's easy to look at a 5-star rating and assume it's real. But as Marcus learned, the cost of manufacturing trust is always higher than just telling the truth. If you enjoyed this breakdown of corporate pressure and digital fraud, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the gray areas of the modern workplace. You can find the vocabulary of the story down below in the description box. Drop a comment down below. Have you ever been pushed by a boss to cross an ethical line? Let's talk about it. Until next time, stay honest out there, and thanks for watching. See you in the next story. Goodbye.